I'm Emily Cooper, and my life turned upside down 3 weeks ago when I found out my sister had stolen my identity. I don't mean a couple of credit cards, 7. To be exact. 7 cards opened in my name, maxed out, leaving me with $78. 0 inches debt. The twist? It wasn't just her actions that shattered my world, it was my family's reaction. They took her side. And when they begged the judge to let her go free, the question he asked changed everything. That morning, it started like any other. I woke up, checked my phone, and there it was, an alert from my bank about a drop in my credit score. Normally, that wouldn't have been anything to worry about. But this time, I watched as my score plunged by 350 points. I had no idea why. I dug deeper into my credit report. And that's when I saw it: 7 credit cards, 2 personal loans, all in my name, all maxed out. But none of it was from me. My hands went cold as I saw the billing addresses, every single one traced back to the house I grew up in. I called my sister immediately, but she didn't answer. I tried my parents. No one was answering. That's when I knew this wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. My sister, the person I trusted more than anyone, had betrayed me. She had stolen my future. But it wasn't just the fraud that broke me. It was how my family reacted. They called me vindictive. They said I should forgive her. That's when I knew something had to change. The Cooper family dynamic was always a little unbalanced. Growing up, I never complained about being the quiet one, the independent one. I knew my place. Jessica, on the other hand, was always the center of attention, always needing someone to help her out. My mom would say, "You know, Emily, Jessica just needs a little more love, a little more care. She feels things more deeply." I didn't argue. I just kept doing what I did best, taking care of myself, figuring things out on my own. When I went to college, I worked 2 part-time jobs to pay my tuition, while Jessica got a free ride. Mom and Dad covered her rent, her car, even her shopping sprees. It wasn't that I resented it, it was just the way things were. Mom would tell me, "You're so self-sufficient. Em, you don't need help." And she was right. I didn't. I was used to it. But Jessica? She never had to figure anything out for herself. Everything was handed to her. I thought it was just the way families worked, that everyone had their role to play. That night, when we were at Mom and Dad's house for dinner, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Mom was fussing over Jessica, as usual. "Oh, honey, I love that new purse," she said, as if she hadn't noticed the $500 price tag. Meanwhile, I was just grateful to have made it to dinner after a 12-hour shift. I tried to share my news about buying a place, something I'd been working toward for years, but it was as if I wasn't even talking. Mom barely heard me. She was too busy worrying about Jessica's latest struggles. Oh, later, when Jessica asked to borrow my laptop, I didn't hesitate. I handed it over, trusting her like I always did. I didn't think anything of it. She was my sister. What harm could there be? Little did I know. That night, she was gathering the pieces she'd need to destroy my financial future. I was brushing my teeth when the alert came through. "Your credit score has changed." I didn't think much of it at first. My score had always been high, something I prided myself on. But when I saw the number, I almost dropped my toothbrush. Sibaishar. It should have been over 780. There was no way I could have made such a dramatic mistake. My heart sank as I sat on the edge of the tub, staring at the screen. I pulled up my full credit report. It didn't take long to see the truth. 7 credit cards, none of them mine. 2 personal loans again, all in my name. My hands trembled as I read the list of companies. Capital One, Discover, American Express, These were the ones I recognized, but I didn't remember opening any of them. I couldn't have. I wasn't reckless with my finances. The accounts were maxed out. And the addresses. They were my parents' house. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't process it. I called the first number I could find. My voice was shaky, but I pushed through. There's been a mistake. I've never opened a Capital One card in my life. The silence on the other end lasted too long. Ma'am, we show 7 accounts under your Social Security number, all in good standing until 2 months ago. Would you like me to read you the billing addresses on file? Yes, I said, my voice barely audible. She started reading the addresses. Every one of them was the same. My parents' house. My chest tightened. That's when it hit me. My sister had done this. There was no other explanation. I didn't know what to do. My mind raced. I felt betrayed. How had I been so blind? How could someone who shared my last name, someone I trusted, someone I grew up with, do this to me? I needed answers. So I grabbed my phone and called my sister. I wasn't prepared for the voicemail that greeted me. I called again. No answer. I sent a text. Still nothing. I tried my parents, but they didn't pick up either. It felt like the walls were closing in on me. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was scared. How had this happened? How had she stolen from me? And why hadn't I seen the signs? I stood at the door, my knuckles white as I gripped the handle. I could hear the low hum of the TV from the living room, the soft sound of my sister flipping through channels like nothing had changed. I took a deep breath, pushed the door open, and stepped inside. Jessica, I said, my voice steady but cold. We need to talk. She didn't look up. She just kept scrolling through her phone, pretending like she didn't hear me. I wasn't about to let her ignore me again. I walked over, set my purse down with a thud, and crossed my arms. Did you open credit cards in my name? That got her attention. She paused, then slowly turned her head, the fake innocence already beginning to mask her face. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice dripping with feigned confusion. Why would I do that? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I pulled my phone from my bag, opened the credit report, and slapped it down on the coffee table. The numbers were glaring at us both. 7 cards. Jessica. 7. And 2 loans. You're using my name to rack up debt. My future is being stolen from me. And I want answers. 2 eyes do. Her eyes darted to the screen and back to mine. Her smile faltering. She opened her mouth to speak but then closed it, as if trying to come up with some new lie. You've got it all wrong, she muttered, finally sitting up on the couch. I didn't do this. It must be some mistake. He's bride. Do you really think I'm stupid? I asked, my voice rising with anger. Do you really think I wouldn't notice when the bills come in? I've been tracking my finances for years. Jessica, I know every dollar, every cent. So don't sit here and lie to me. Ever. She looked at the floor, her face flushed with shame. But I could see the walls she'd built starting to crumble. She wasn't going to get away with this. Not this time. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought you'd be fine. I thought I could just borrow some money and pay it back. But it got out of hand. Twos. My chest tightened, the anger and betrayal flooding my body all at once. Borrow some money? I repeated, my voice shaking with disbelief. You used my name. You put me in debt. And you don't even have the decency to be honest about it. What the hell is wrong with you? She stood up, pacing in front of me, looking almost frantic. I was desperate, you don't understand. I've been struggling. Okay? I didn't know what else to do. Her voice cracked. But it wasn't an apology. It was an excuse. Just like all the others she had used over the years. I clenched my fists at my sides. You didn't come to me. You didn't ask for help. You stole from me. And now I have to fix this mess. My voice was tight. My throat constricting with the weight of the betrayal. You could have told me. Jessica, you could have said something. But no. You just took. It's no. She stopped pacing and turned to face me. For the first time, I saw the desperation in her eyes. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear. I didn't. I thought I could pay it back before you ever noticed. But it's too late now. Isn't it? You think? I snapped, shaking my head. You don't get to make decisions for me. You don't get to ruin my life because you were too lazy to deal with your own problems. Jessica's expression shifted. And for a moment, she looked like she might cry. But then she took a deep breath. And the coldness returned. You always act like you have it all figured out, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Maybe you should have helped me. Maybe if you'd been a little more like a sister and less like some perfect little accountant, I wouldn't have had to do this. That was it. The final line. I stepped forward, my voice low but firm. You don't get to blame me for your mistakes. You don't get to use me as your scapegoat anymore. My words hung in the air between us, thick with finality. She crossed her arms, narrowing her eyes. What are you going to do about it? Huh? Go to the cops? Sue me? You wouldn't do that. We're family. I didn't blink. Don't mistake my silence for weakness. I'm done letting you walk all over me. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. She froze, staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. I wasn't the same person who had always backed down, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it anymore. I spent the next few days in a fog of paperwork. Every document, every form, felt like another layer of weight pressing down on me. I didn't expect things to move quickly. But as I sat at my kitchen table, watching the stacks of papers pile up, I felt a sinking sense of finality. My sister had crossed a line, and now it was time to do something about it. The phone call from Mark came as I was sorting through the last of the credit card statements. Emily? I'm sorry you're dealing with this, Mark said, his voice steady but with a hint of concern. But you've got a strong case. We're going to move forward. But it's going to be a tough ride. I nodded, though he couldn't see it. I'm ready, I said, trying to convince myself more than him. What do I need to do? He walked me through the next steps, gathering evidence, filling out forms, and preparing for the inevitable backlash from my family. It's not going to be easy, but it's necessary, he added. Once we start, there's no turning back. 8. The first official step came a few days later when I walked into the financial crimes office. Detective Ford, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, met me with a handshake and a look that made me feel like I was finally on the right path. I've reviewed everything, she said, gesturing to the file on her desk. This is a clear case of identity theft. We'll subpoena the records. And with what you've got, we'll move forward. I didn't feel relieved. Not yet. The weight of what was to come still hung heavy. What happens now? I asked, trying to steady my nerves. We'll get a court order to freeze the accounts. Then we'll prepare for the arraignment. It's going to take some time, she explained, her voice calm but firm. But you've got a strong case. Emily, you've done everything right. I sat back, letting the words sink in. My sister was going to have to answer for this. My parents might never understand. But I wasn't backing down. Thank you, Detective, I said, my voice steady now. The next few weeks were a blur of legal documents, phone calls, and appointments. I had to gather more evidence. But it was clear now. This wasn't just about money. This was about my family's betrayal. Every time I thought about it, the anger swelled up again, and the guilt gnawed at me. My parents hadn't been on my side. They hadn't been there for me when I needed them most. At the arraignment, I would finally face the truth of what had happened. I would stand there, in front of a judge, and say everything I needed to say. But not yet. The case wasn't over, and it wouldn't be until my sister paid for what she'd done. The courtroom was cold, the hum of the air conditioning filling the silence. I sat in the third row, clutching my purse so tightly that my fingers ached. The weight of what was about to happen pressed down on me. But I didn't flinch. The doors opened, and in walked Jessica. She was in a plain gray cardigan, her once perfect appearance now a far cry from the designer outfits she used to flaunt. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, but her eyes never left the floor. I wanted to scream, to confront her right there, but I held back. This was her moment to face the consequences. The judge entered, and the room stood in unison. I watched as the proceedings began. The formal reading of charges. My heart pounded in my chest as the prosecutor laid out the facts: 7 credit cards, 2 personal loans, all in my name. The details of Jessica's fraud were clear. And as each point was read, I could feel the air around me tightening. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. The truth was finally being heard. Jessica's lawyer stood up, asking for leniency. Your Honor, my client is deeply remorseful. This was a mistake born of desperation. She is willing to make restitution and work with the victim. His voice was smooth, rehearsed. I could feel the weight of his words. The attempt to make it all go away with a simple apology. But there was no apology in Jessica's eyes. There was only resentment. The same resentment I'd seen all my life. The judge turned to my sister, her gaze unflinching. Miss Carter, you've pleaded not guilty. Yet the evidence is overwhelming. What do you have to say for yourself? Jessica looked up for the first time, meeting the judge's eyes. But she didn't speak right away. Her lawyer nudged her, but she just blinked. Finally, she let out a shaky breath. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I didn't know what else to do. The judge didn't seem moved. You didn't mean for it to get this far? She repeated. You used your sister's name, her credit, her future. You took everything she worked for. All because you couldn't manage your own life. Jessica's eyes dropped to the floor again, her face pale. Then the judge turned to me. Miss Cooper, how do you wish to proceed? I stood up, every muscle in my body tense. I could feel the eyes of the room on me, waiting for my response. The tears I'd been holding back threatened to spill. But I stayed calm. I had to stay calm. I want justice, I said firmly. I want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. She used my name, my credit, to live the life she wanted while I worked every day to build my own. I want her to face the consequences of her actions. My voice didn't waver, even though everything inside me was screaming. And I want her to pay back what she owes me. Every penny. The judge nodded. Turning to the prosecutor, this is not just a case of financial fraud. It's a betrayal of trust. A betrayal of family. The words hit me hard. My own family had failed me in every possible way. But this was my moment. The moment I would take control of my own fate. Jessica's lawyer made his final plea. Your Honor, my client has no criminal record. She's been a model citizen up until now. I ask for leniency, for a chance to make things right. The judge's gaze was cold. Miss Carter, you've had the chance to make things right. And now, you will face the consequences. This court will proceed with a trial. The gavel came down. And in that moment, I knew it was over. Jessica would face trial. And she would pay for what she had done. The fight wasn't over. But it was mine to win. I sat down, a sense of finality settling in my chest. I had done what I needed to do. And for the first time, I could breathe. The trial was over. Jessica had pled guilty. And I watched her as she sat quietly in the courtroom, a look of defeat on her face. The sentence was harsh but necessary: 2 years suspended, 5 years probation, and restitution to me for the full amount. The judge had spoken, and there was no more room for excuses. I could feel a strange weight lift from my shoulders, but it wasn't relief. It was the finality of it all. The knowledge that this chapter of my life was officially closed. A few weeks later, the first check came. 472美元. The amount was nothing compared to what she owed me. But it was something. I stared at the check in my hands, feeling the same mix of anger and emptiness that had been there since the day I found out what she had done. But as the payments started to come in, I realized something. It wasn't about the money anymore. It wasn't even about what she had taken from me. It was about my ability to stand up for myself, to reclaim the life I had worked so hard for. One evening, as I sat down to pay my bills and track my finances, something I had always done religiously, I realized how much had changed. My credit score had climbed from 412 to 580. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. The fraudulent accounts had slowly been removed. One by one, every month, the balance dropped a little. And with it, a weight I hadn't realized I was still carrying began to lift. The burden of betrayal was still there, but it was no longer suffocating me. I sat back, feeling a sense of calm that I hadn't felt in months. Jessica's actions had almost destroyed everything I had built. But I wasn't broken. I was stronger now, more certain of myself than I had ever been. The road to recovery was long, but I was walking it. And for the first time in my life, I knew it was okay to put myself first. Thank you for watching my story. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and let me know how you handled it. And remember, you deserve to put yourself first. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Stay strong. Stay empowered.